Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with a 3-time and current world champion and widely considered the greatest player of all time, the Zerg in the red, the finisher. It's Serral. Facing off against one of the best Protoss out of Korea in the blue, we have Zoun. In a best-of-3 Protoss versus Zerg showdown, as part of the $10,000 LiuLi Cup tournament. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. And we kind of the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? 1,849 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the very first probe persecuted for the capital crimes of trespassing, thievery of 5 or more minerals, and, most controversial yet most meaningful to the Zerg, being Protoss. So the probe will take a look, sees the drone go out for the third, and will not see the third base. But all that really matters is the implication. So now he assumes the third is there. He's going to confirm it, because the implication isn't enough. Needs to make sure Serral isn't doing something untoward. Cancels the Adept Shade, and just strolls right in, right past the Queen, right past the Zerglings, slips by, a drone pinned up against it, and... Was that a Queen attack? That was the longest range knitting needle I've ever seen. Maybe that was odd. Unfortunately, though, the revenge is not enough. And the Adept gets kind of a casual kill. Just knocks out one of the drones and gets a full scout. He went for a stalker behind, so he sent the Adept back to make sure that a big Zergling attack was not going to break through. And now he's going to kill the Overlord on the high ground. But they were all of them deceived, for the Overlord had already snuck by Serral with the slowest unit in the game, making up for it with good planning and some high IQ plays. The Overlord looking down on everyone. The Oracle trying... There was an Overlord, all right? Some Protoss might be lacking in object permanence, but we don't have that particular hero here today. Count the Overlord casually strolls out, and it may not be fast, but it's fast enough, as the Stalker will fail in its task of being a dedicated anti-air unit in the early game, so the Oracle can point out where it is. Well, a couple more gases. Did he actually see those as well? He saw the timing, which is quite relevant for the follow-up, and you can hit it? All right. He's up against the edge of the map. It's invisible, but so are most things that kill you slowly. And like and subscribe for existential dread. And the Overlord strolls away as there's just enough space. The Oracles stroll back in and will take out their vengeance on 3 drones, driven away by a couple Queens, and just slices away a few. And 46 to 47 drones. Zoun keeping pretty even with Serral, which is not too surprising at this stage of the game, because Zerg has so many things they need to do with their drones that aren't just mine. Every single drone that becomes a spore crawler, every extractor, every hatchery is another drone lost from the mineral line and possibly adding a new one. But that means Protoss with Chrono Boost and maybe some Oracles and Adepts to cut down on the count can keep a relatively similar economy, especially before the injects really start coming online. So the 4th base on the way. The Queens. No, it was my turn to inject. Wait your turn. I just said that. So injects can queue up on hatcheries. I think it's not super clear as the UI doesn't really show it. But if 3 Queens inject a hatchery, it doesn't just decide that 1 egg from each comes out. But instead, for the next 3 cycles, which are about 30 seconds, it will continue the injects. Up to, I think it's about 10 is the max. Serral, usually very efficient about it, but it's much better to have them and not need them. Demonstrating here by the triple team on this hatch. As opposed to trying to be super efficient about it. Back in the day, if you haven't played StarCraft 2 since the CD-ROM drive was the way you installed it, then back in the day, injects, you couldn't start another one until the first one had popped off. All right, the hatches were monogamous like that. But nowadays, you can at least queue them up. But it does not add more to each cycle. You still only get 3 larvae per round. But you have a little bit more leeway on that queen energy. Of course, the queens also cost more in about 100 other changes, partially inspired / caused by especially the Zerg player in the red. But I've missed a lot, and so little at the same time. A few Zerglings, a few drones, literally no Protoss units yet. But there is a Robo-Bay on the way and a Colossus in production, which is a build directly intending on countering a Hydraling timing. Unfortunately, Serral, while Zoun might be a step ahead of a Hydraling timing, Serral is streets ahead of any mid-game Protoss at all, as a Hive is already halfway done. A Lurker Den is most of the way there. An Observer will see all of this. It just strolled into the main. The Blink Stalkers and Stasis and Oracles over the top, just trying to keep control of the creep, and will be successful thus far. But Zoun should be aware, despite getting Colossi with extended thermal lance, it's not going to be the be-all, end-all. This is not something that's going to be successful. With Vipers and Lurkers, the ability to yank the Colossi in and eviscerate them with the Lurker spines, it ain't going to be it. But I'm very interested in the choice to use Colossi instead of Templar in the mid-game, or at least as part of the filler composition. Though, I do think Zoun actually wanted to hit a timing. It's just Serral already kind of skipped it. So, the rest of the tech tree. Get out your Prima strategy guides and start checking things off. We got the Fleet Beacon. We got Lurker range. We got Templar archives. We've got Hydralisk speed, Overlisk speed, Overlord speed. We've got more speed than your body can handle. The creep is continuing. A little bit of everything everywhere all the time. So, it appears we're going to fill out the entire tech tree like this is big game hunters before any sort of committed attack. And speed running to the late game on this more macro-oriented of maps. Now, that is a bold move from anyone not named Serral, of which I've checked Zoun, not Serral. And even though late game Zerg versus Protoss is sometimes quite a difficulty against especially Skytoss, I feel like everything you talk about strategically in StarCraft 2 has to have an asterisk that says Serral notwithstanding, because Serral can withstand too much. And he's actually turned the tables here. He's firing the Lurker spines across the tiny moat. It's not even a high ground up here. It's just a small chasm where, well, Tempest don't care too much. There's a Viper at the back. He was trying to bait the Colossi in, but not masterfully enough. And now that Tempest's already on the field, Serral, not going to be outdone. Also filling in his end of the tech tree. And Ultralisk Cavern is on the way. A Spire is nearly done. Adrenal Glands, Hydralisk Lunge. Just assume that they have everything. We're getting very close to that point of almost every single upgrade besides maybe Glaive to Depths and Tunneling Claws being filled in. Though Burrow is something that Serral, that's less of a want and more of a need eventually. But Serral is setting up for a two-prong. He plays both sides, so ideally he can't lose, but here we go. The attack at the front, the Lurkers are slicing through, but this is only about 2/3 of the entire army. The rest is loaded up into Dropper Lords. Zoun is having a bunch of trouble with the Lurkers in the first place. He's dealing with all this while the Overlords get into the main, and there's almost nothing backing up to defend. Though he's freed up some of Zoun's supply, which means a Warpin might be enough to stop this in its tracks. The Nexus is taking heavy fire. The Storm's over the top and will soften up a lot of the Lurkers. He's targeting the Nexus. He slices through it. But Zoun will clean up the rest of the army, as well as the drop in the main. So Serral, objective accomplished. But we have to ask ourselves that question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? Serral loses 1,200 more gas, a few hundred more minerals. He destroys the Nexus. And he loses a huge chunk of his Lurkers. And he replaces them with Ultralisks? More like Ultra Risk, I said, using the lowest form of humor, since we don't have Burrow yet. Alright. 5 ultras on the way. Lurkers still over the top. There's no super easy way to deal with these. He needs the Revelation for detection, the Tempest. Just trying to keep him busy. This is the most obvious bait and switch, but it might be enough. Well, he's in and out, and those Zerglings are not messing around. Adrenal glands is complete. He's getting Microbial Shroud in production, and Infestors on the way. Meanwhile, Lurkers on the left side. The Nexus was just rebuilt, but the Stasis... Stop right there, criminal scum. The Overseer rather. You can barely see it on the mini-map because there are so many icons. It's at full energy. You could actually delay the upgrades. Somehow, Protoss vision is based on movement. If you stand or sit very still. Somehow he avoided the Tempest obliterating it. Meanwhile, a Greater Spire is on the way. As Serral, he's got 2,500, 500 in the bank. Zoun is starting to bank up himself, and some charge lots over to the right side. Ultralists are pretty good at dealing with the charge lot counters, and another drop in the main before the cannons come back up. Contaminate on the +3 attack. The Overseer finally found purpose in life, but the tectonic destabilizers are helping him push through. Almost double damage to buildings. And a few Lurkers are no contest. But the fungal, the Microbial Shroud underneath, reducing the damage from everything here besides Storm. Finally, a couple Storms come out. Another Microbial Shroud, and Serral's Ultras are just chewing through everything. The deep tissue massage of the Tempest, even without the Microbial Shroud. The attack in the main will finally be cleaned up, but there's significantly less base, so it seems like it was pretty based itself. The Spine Crawlers, the backbone of the defense in the top right corner. The Tempests are left alone, but Serral's got a Congress of Corruptors in production. 16 more. The Oracles will actually find the Infestors, and I think we'll see Burrow in production momentarily. Somehow a Warp Prism made it into the main. Somehow a Warp Prism made it into the unit's lost tab. A Lurker delaying the base in the bottom left corner. But Serral... Oh! One more shot! One opportunity. But he did not capture it. Serral defends across the board, and in 90 seconds... Almost 20,000 resources lost between them. But Serral was more cost-efficient than a Protoss, who had Tempest and Templar, which were surprisingly temporary. The Corruptors, Caustic Spray attempted, but a volley of Tempest Fire will, how was the... He's still here! He could delay +3 again. I really think it's the mini-map. Oh, he noticed? They both noticed at the same time. Somehow. It was even before the notifications, but as he warped in Stalkers. Meanwhile, another round. Serral drops in yet again. The Lurker in position. The Tempest to deal with it. The Zerglings just ripping things apart in the main. And Serral banking up back at home. Do not touch that with Vipers. A Queen, Transfuse, and Ultra. An Ultra costs more than a Hatchery, so... I guess it's more valuable to keep alive. Though, you can make some arguments to either side. So, Yeah, shut up, Susan. I didn't say anything, Brenda. I saw you looking at me. Sorry. Blacked out for a moment. Broodlord's on the way. Even against... There are 6 Tempests. Finally find some detection. Zoun has been bottled up on 4 bases. Been trying to take a 5th. 2 casual Ultras. Okay. Alright. Just gonna take some big bites out of the Nexus. So, what does he replace these with? It's gonna be more Broodlords, right? Like, the more Corruptors in production. Let's see. Come on, Serral, give me my clickbait title. Like, every single title is clickbait with Serral. Is it? Or is it really the best StarCraft I've ever seen? It usually is. How dare you? But what I'm talking about is the Spore trick. Build 20 Spores, use them to build another round of Broodlords or something, and then cancel them. And effectively have 220 supply. But he's not quite at that level of... in solidarity. Meanwhile, the charge lots, quite efficient. The biggest weakness right now for Serral is his mobility. He has 4 Ultras. He has no Zerglings. He's lost all 242. as he's pretty smoothly transitioned into pure Infestor Broodlord with a few Ultras for the home defense Ultras, all right? Pick one up for the whole family, or each family. 3 Broodlords on defense are a curiously impotent choice. So, he's about to have +3 melee attack. Does he have Carapace? No, Carapace isn't even on the way. It is... yeah, 2 more Stargates, another Cybercore for double upgrades. The main base has been rebuilt several times. Serral has given him cause to renovate the whole situation. He eventually finished +3 ground weapons. There's still the Dropper Lords over to the right side. This is happening. Does he have Ultraless speed? Yeah, they're just sad. Okay. So despite all of this, it isn't a decisive position for Serral, because he still at some point has to deal with the army. He did find a lot of success, but that was before Zoun had the Death Ball. And most importantly, and I feel like a little bit late to the party here, but eventually should be showing up, the Mothership. Just for Time Warp, let alone threatening Cloak, or using Mass Recall, the Time Warp ability, slowing both movement and attack of a huge area of the battlefield, is it's not intangible, but it cannot be ignored in its value. Because a lot of the time, by the time the Zerg commits, doesn't matter if there's a Time Warp or not, like, they have to keep going. Because you can't just keep dancing in out of Tempest range. They are the longest range. Are they the longest range in the game? Very close to it. Easily outrange Corruptors and Broodlords. And obviously the Broodlords can't hit the Tempest. Some more charge lots. The cleanup crew is here. A few morsels of Protoss. Snacking. Unfortunately, I haven't had quite a meal in a while. Not since the fateful battle in the center, with Microbial Shroud playing a massive factor, actually. Serral moves forward. He's slowly but surely pushing his creep to the front. He's now taken both contested bases. Zoun needs to deny/grab at least one of them, as he has not been significantly more cost-effective. If you're playing a ridiculously cost-effective style, if you have been able to take big winning fights, but maybe not push to victory, then maybe you can let Serral have another base. If you were playing any other Zerg. But Serral not only having both of them, but potentially denying the resources, which may very well become relevant. He's storming Broodlings, which feels a little sad, as the main attack of the Broodlord is not so much the Broodlings themselves nibbling on everything, but it's when the Broodlords grow their little mini Broodlord babies and whip them down. That's called the Broodlord Impact Strike, which does most of the damage. And it's effective by flyer attack, not melee attack. That's why it's a whole corrupt system. Broodlings never become Broodlords, only Corruptors through their disgusting morph process. So that is simply how it works, and the Broodlings are meant to be whipped out and live for a few seconds to mess up the targeting of units and maybe keep them from getting right on top of them. The Ultras over to the left side can weather the storms a lot better than the Zerglings, and a big recall. Actually, I didn't know the size of the recall, I just assumed. It was a medium-sized recall. I do apologize. But we'll call it big. That's what your mother said, so I'm just... average-sized recall? It's about how you use the recall. Anyways. Zoun was killing off some of his own... I don't know if that was Archons or Zealous, but... maybe wants some more Templar. Serral has... wait for it. Over 9,000 minerals in the bank. 7,200 gas. As he economically pummels Zoun. Now, there's always the major risk of losing a fight outright to the Skytoss. In which case, this army is obscenely difficult to rebuild. But the same can be said for Zoun. He's got 11 Tempests, 6 High Templar, the mothership. He's going to trade corner bases, but... Oh no, the Infestors! Oh no! He did get Burrow. There's Microbe. He's going to turn the tables a bit, but he just lost several full energy four full energy Infestors. He does make it a little more painful than it originally seemed. But the most important part, the unsung heroes, the often nerfed heroes, the Infestors. Without them, without Fungal, and honestly with Serral, without Microbial Shroud, to reduce all ranged attack damage about 50% under the Shroud. I feel like I need to describe it because it's used so little. Because it takes Infestor energy, which is so precious. But no one hoards it like Serral. Except in this case where he just lost like 4 Infestors for free-ish. Still, it's quite a hill to climb for Zoun. We've reached the stage of the game where Serral is happy enough to mine one base at a time. Where he's no longer tried that... He had his time with the 300 supplies there. The constant waves upon waves slowly drifting across the map. The Dropper Lords, the Hydra Lurker. But the Lurkers have been stripped out of the composition along with the Hydras. And there's not even any Zerglings. It is pure Infestor Broodlord with a few Ultras mixed in. And just 2 Queens remaining. Though there's still 28 larvae and... Well, the Queens are... Don't look at that. It's like he yanked in... An Observer? Trying to reclaim. It's important to just keep attempting it. As a hatchery of 275 minerals is not a huge investment. And if he mines for a minute, especially the gas, that's worth it. He has to keep Zoun thinking about the other side of the map. Even if really the issue is the Infestor Broodlord. The Dark Shrine. These Dark Shrine plus 3 shields and Observer speed are now on the way. As we're truly trying to 100% complete that upgrades tab. And an Archon bears the brunt of another legion of broodlings. He's got a dozen broodlords. We've got 19 corruptors. It's still enough Tempests to be a major threat. Without the Infestors, it is a very uncomfortable scenario. That is not enough corruptors to reliably deal with the Tempests on their own. Unless the Tempests are literally by themselves, but usually they have a few friends along with them. Or, legally I'm obliged to say, work colleagues. Not even, well, acquaintances, because I don't think... Neural Parasite? Wait, okay. I wasn't sure if it would prevent the recall, but Serral just picks off a couple Tempests. He's so far been more cost-effective. And he jumped... Well, that's one way to separate the wheat from the chaff. I don't... He draws the Tempest out of prediction. Oh no, but the cloak! Oh! Just a split second out of position, and the Broodlords lose track of things. The Templar gliding forward. The Storm's whipped out every which way. A hectic engagement. Serral rebuilding. There are carriers. Carriers? In production. He lost the Oracles, which means he can't easily keep tabs. Filling in the Stalkers again. The Ultras will find another opportunity. They've been chilling in the corner, but the Broodlords... Now, Zoun, without the Oracle, which he's now rebuilding, obviously. Without the Oracle, he can't tell what he's running into. He can't keep easy tabs on those Broodlords. So that was quite a mixed bag. As the battle has continued over 3.5 minutes. What am I watching? So the Ultras are burrowed and there's no detection. And the Observers are on the way. He unburrows the Ultras, knowing that there's an inevitability here. Serral, his creep was pushed back, I think, is one of the larger wins. And he's moving the Broodlords. The Broodlords, ponderous creatures. As you cannot easily put them in any other... He's hedging his bets. He's just sitting in the center of the map and gonna react with the broods. The Ultras will help chew through the cannons, and Zoun, he can afford warpins if he had the supply. Unfortunately, he does not. The Fungals come through. The Brood Lords are here. The Fungals hold the Stalkers down. Zoun clearly looking the other way to deal with the Zerglings. The probes are in the center of the map. And Serral again maintains. The carriers have arrived. And carriers are a rich man's unit, though they add an extra wrinkle here. The carriers having to pay for each and every interceptor. Serral very optimistically trying to expand, but someone else is already parked there in his spot. And Serral just lost both of the outlying Nexi. Nope, he lost 0 Nexi, though there's a non-zero chance that by the end of this, he neural parasites a probe and borrows one. Though, I think he's pretty happy with his position. Zoun still has the army, but Serral's down to 38 drones. And that's not a bad thing, as he has, what, like 5 mineral patches, including somehow the ones at his natural. He actually actively mined the patches outside of his earlier bases when he could, which is something very few players really focus on. But Serral with the Ultras and Lings on the left side. The Brood Lords ripping through the Nexus on the right, and Zoun is stuck in the center, unable to respond quickly enough. There's a recall of whatever battle group is here. A few of the probes are taken out, but Zoun's income is about to hit rock bottom. Quite literally headed towards 0. I lied. There's still this base on the bottom right. A single base. Now, Serral is not much better. He does not have much more income. But through all the fire and fury, he's actually lost 3,000, about 3,000 less minerals and 400 less gas, which I cannot stress is unthinkable as Zerg. Asterisk, Serral notwithstanding. The hatchery. So detection is the name of the game. Okay, the game, technically it's StarCraft 2, Legacy of the Void, but the Void of Detection can make or break all of this. As if Serral doesn't have Overseers or at least Fungal, then the Mothership Cloak can do terrible, well, the units within the Mothership Cloak can completely obliterate his army in seconds. Whereas Zoun, if he doesn't have detection, then the Infestors can just neural parasite pretty much anything they can get a hold of. And half his army will be working for Serral instead. A revelation? He catches the Oracle, but at least we'll have vision of those Infestors for quite a while. Over 10,000 minerals and 8,200 gas invested in this preposterous army from Serral. Zoun now successfully mining from the right side. There's a changeling. Oh, looks pretty good, guys. Hey, where are we going? Honestly, that changeling being underneath a carrier. Down. The Infestors, and now we're just gonna meet in the center. Oh, the Templar! He grabbed the Templar! He feedbacks the other Templar! And no Storms, no Templar! He turns them against one another! The Neural Parasite, the Infestors, the Protoss, Wombo Combo, Corruptors, Parasitic Bomb! Spells across the board! This isn't Warcraft 3! This is a slaughter! In one of the most one-sided battles you could possibly have. It's not over, but I think we can see which direction this is trending. That battle was more one-sided than a Mobius strip. In seconds, Serral destroys 2,000 more minerals and 3,000 more gas. He turned the Templar against one another, which, not the hardest thing to do considering Protoss history, but in this case, oh no, it is an absolute disaster. Zoun has been clearly anxious, nervous, trying to find a fight with the best Protoss army. He meets him in the middle of the field and dies there. And now, well, we have a couple more minutes maybe of a death animation, as Zoun is not completely out of it. But I'm not sure what sort of fever dream it would take for Serral to lose it from here. Even if the infestor spontaneously imploded, which it seems like they're kind of trying to do here, but the Broodlord count is too damn high. Serral still has enough in the bank to rebuild most of this. Zoun can't know that for sure. It's not a common situation where Zerg has a much more cost-effective engagement across the board. But this was an absolute masterclass. And Zoun, there's a lot of moving parts. And he moved a little bit too far. He dug a little bit too deep. And a little bit too greedily. And Serral in one of the most comprehensive beatdowns. Just simply keep... How many infestors? He's lost 19 infestors this game. I was going to say so efficient. And he was. And he is. But not so efficient that it was unthinkable that Zoun could turn it around. And how many games have we seen? Oh, another one. Well, okay. So technically, in order to win a game of StarCraft 2, you must destroy all your opponent's buildings. And it appears Zoun is going for that very technical requirement, as there is a non-zero chance that he can force that scenario. Serral's rebuilding an infestation, but he's got 8 infestors in production. The building count is dwindling, but as the Broodlord slowly but surely come back, Zoun will not get this opportunity again, and he does not have enough to capture it right now. What? It literally, he could not have scripted it better. Using Templar, Serral with 10,000 more resources cost effective, 3,000 less gas. Wow. He lost 14 hatcheries. He lost 500 Zerglings. 30 infestors. But not the game. Well, that's it. That simply distill that down, and whatever he did there, that's how you beat SkyToss. Zoun clearly... I think Serral noticed early that Zoun has a tendency to leave his Templar a little bit less protected. He's much more of a tempo-based player. Like, he wants to hit these timings where you're off guard. We already saw that from the start with the Colossi. Like, who goes Colossi? In this economy? It's almost unheard of. And if Serral had kind of locked in on the Hydraling timing, it could have been a disaster for him. Because it is the hardest possible counter to that exact timing. That almost even probably 50% to 70% of Zergs are doing nowadays. So, but Serral goes straight to the late game, drags him, and beats him with experience. And his own units. Game 2, Winter Madness. Which is something described often here. But also the name of the map. As Serral with a decisive victory. Though, it's... Zoun is ranked, what? 13th, 14th in the world? 3rd or 4th best Protoss? But the chasm, the exponential curve. Well, God. When Serral is on point, which is most of the time, it just looks impossible. It's both as a Zerg player. I'm 1/3 Zerg myself, all right? Some of my best friends are Zerg. It's both inspiring and incredibly frustrating. Because you look at that and say, well, if the most fragile, expensive unit could just stay alive for long enough to cast multiple spells while having all the rest of my units in position all the time, the Infestor, then, and I do that for like 20 minutes straight, then Protoss looks a little sad. Which is true. But also, good luck. Have fun. We'll see what Zoun has in store. The way he exploits the little mistakes, too. Like the Tempest pick off, just when he dragged the Tempest out of position, caught him on the recall. These sort of things are not supposed to happen, but he just forces the issue. Did Zoun even scout? No. No probe scout. Gonna try to get every extra mineral. And trusting that Serral isn't gonna do a 12-pool drone rush. Which is a pretty good bet. I think it's a safe enough bet. The Overlord will make its way towards the... I think he still has enough time. A Twilight Council. Ah. Is this the obligatory... Well, I lost to Serral, so I'm gonna try Glaives. Which every Protoss has done for about 50% of their series over the last, like, 8 years. And a not insignificant percentage of them have succeeded. This is so early, though. A Shrine to Dark? Come back to us, Dark. Maybe soon. In a year. I don't know. Don't just be Glaives. Blink! Well... that is certainly not Glaives. Huh. A blink time. He's getting a robo, which means he wants a warp prism. And he's doing a straight up blink timing. That is wild. Look at Serral scouring the map. The lack of the fact it was a stalker first is already unbelievably suspicious at this level. You don't go stalker first. He did not remember. Zoun did not scout. He did not send a probe. He did not pass go. He did not collect 200 minerals. The fact that nothing was sent out of the map and he built a stalker to keep the Overlord out? Alarm bells. Serral scoured, like in Serral's video, he looked through every corner of the map. Doors and corners. That's where they get you. And Protoss can't have doors, so that narrows it down. It's gonna be 5-gate blink. He stopped building probes, has just the 2 gas gathers. I'm sure he's worked this out before. Mass Zergling on the way. Serral's making another round of drones. And so he's relying on the ambiguity of this build, where you can't actually tell what it is. And even if he sees the warp prism, he's gonna think it's DTs. Unless he specifically sees the stalker count, or Zoun just walks out, which is possible. We try to... There's no vision! Oh, then the Zergling comes in, because Serral, of course, is not going to leave any gaps in vision. So he knows it's coming. But Serral has a lair on the way. He built a Spore Crawler. He doesn't know for sure... Well, I think he's got his suspicions now. Some Overlords can be caught out, and that Overlord hard supply blocks Serral. He's only got 1 in production, which means he's left with whatever army he has now. There are 31 Zerglings, 5 Queens, and 7 Roaches in production. So the Queen's tanking, 1 Roach immediately taken out. Zoun is down 20 supply, but the Blink Stalkers are obscenely cost-effective. He canceled the lair. Everything is going to be put into this, maybe even the drones as well. So Zoun, it's do or die. The Blink needs to work, because if Serral defends this with 3 bases, he easily overruns him back at home. There's no hope of a 3rd. He needs to deny Serral. Big transfuse, but the Zerglings try to wrap around. He's going to juggle back with the Blink, and he's trading with the Zerglings. Ghetto Blink with the Prism. And Corrosive Bow thrown out. Takes about 3 years to land, though. Meanwhile, the Stalkers... Well, a lot of them shields stripped away, but he's done a great job of juggling it so far. Finally loses. Is that the first one? Oh my. Now, many of them bruised. 3 Stalkers for 43 Zerglings, 4 Roaches, and whatever else. Serral just continuing to pump out. He can't do anything else. He has no lair attack. He's not going to have Roach speed. He doesn't quite kill off that Ravager. The Queens have been trying to get involved as well, and it's not like Serral has that much more economy. Especially with the Queens pulled off the line, he doesn't have that much larva. He has 0 larva, which is not very much. And oh no! Well, it appears Serral thinks he has 0 chance of actually dealing with this. as Zoun in less than 7 minutes. Serral, he tried to cover everything, but if you go every direction, you don't go anywhere fast. And without roach speed, and the fact he was like building a spore to hedge his bets against Dark Templar, well, a concise game number 2, and Serral just, he might be like, why not just do that every time? Well, fool me once, and usually with Serral, he won't get fooled again. But I don't know. Would I try it? Probably. If I had won a game against Serral, I would probably be putting that on my resume for the next 15 years. So, no matter what, the game looked like, oh, he disconnected, lagged out, and I was accidentally put in the player slot instead of Zoun. I'm taking it. All right. Technical victory. But Zoun takes us to game number 3 in 1/5 of the time. Incredibly well executed execution. And Serral clearly guessing right up until the Stalkers moved out from the base. And you may ask, the more discerning and analytical individuals, why not like Overlord speed? Because I think Scarlet put it the best summary of why almost no Zergs will get Overlord speed, especially before Lair. Overlord speed is for spending 100 gas to see what's going to kill you because you spent 100 gas to get Overlord speed. And now here's the thing. Even if Serral scouts it, like he scouts a Twilight, he scouts a robotics facility, that doesn't actually, like, is it charge? Is there a Dark Shrine somewhere? Is it Adept Glaives? Is it Blink? I didn't even think of Blink, and it just happened. That's how rare Blink is, but... So seeing the Twilight really almost opens up more options and makes it less likely you're going to be able to defend it. Serral scouted it only maybe 10-15 seconds later than he could have scouted it with an Overlord with speed for much greater cost. Zoun will scout this time. I don't think it's something that's going to work again. It just looked really good, though. Cannot underestimate the Blink Stalkers. Zoun demonstrating why Protoss is such a nightmare on the ladder as well. Best of ones are a lot harder to deal with. Even Serral drops a lot of best of ones. As Zerg is more about adapting and evolving, and Protoss is about making sure that doesn't happen. And I think that's lore accurate as well. Read a tome. Or like an obscure visual novel or comic or something that they put out in lieu of actually making more StarCraft content. Anyways, guys hear about StarCraft 3? If you want more news, like and subscribe, and I'll let you know when I hear any, because I have not. Though I'm looking forward to StarCraft Immortal, brought to you by Nexon. There's probably going to be some sort of mobile shooter game or something. Because Blizzard is experts at making games in the 90s and the 2000s, and then being 10 years somehow behind the trend in the 2010s and 20s. So, what game had remarkable and overwhelming and completely outsized success? Helldivers. What is Helldivers? It's effectively StarCraft. You're like, no, it's completely different. You have a bunch of dudes, expendable dudes in power armor, fighting against big alien bugs and robots. And also some, like, aliens that use mind energy to... Wait a second. So, what I predict is Blizzard is going to release their version of Helldivers. StarCraft Ghosted. Now playable on iPhone and GameCube. which I'm looking forward to as well. But speaking of looking forward, the Overlord is not, as it looked directly into the face of the Void Ray, and the Void Ray stared back with a big-ass beam. Which, this is a similar vibe, though very different timing, to the Blinkstalkers. As the Void Ray is not as good as the Oracle at keeping tabs or threatening the Zerg, but it's very good at denying Overlords and scouting in general. So, Zoun trying to keep that slight level of ambiguity, that slight chance that Serral doesn't know exactly what's coming at him, and with it, no. Hey, get off! This is restricted lair space. Pick a lane, Brenda. I pick your lane. This isn't a MOBA. We can be in the same lane. No, you should. I'm sorry. Sorry, the hive mind took over for Twilight Forge, a curiously timed robo. Usually the robo is a little more delayed, but we did see Zoun leaning into the Colossi in game 1, so it could be on the agenda. I really thought that was a cool build. It's just Serral also did, so we countered it before it even started. Lair is halfway there. Serral's kept great tabs on everything. Saw the third base timing. He's even seeing most of the air units here. The Void Ray, mildly inconveniencing some of the Zerglings on the way across. So it's going to be almost 70 drones at 5.5 minutes. Oh my. The Queens will politely yet firmly ask the Void Ray to leave. And it is the Colossi again. Robo Bay on the way. The lair is completed. The Oracle will see the exact timing. Hydra's Den begins. Is there an Overseer yet? So, the second Robo, the Robo Bay's in the main. If he sees the second Robo, that's already a giveaway. Roach speed is on the way. And the Zergling count is high enough that the Stalker's feeling mighty uncomfortable. One of them feeling mighty dead just before the energy recharge. Meanwhile, the Void Ray lights up and does a lot of damage to the fourth base, but not quite enough to take it out. And you might be like, is that the fourth base? No, Serral already has another one that Zoun hasn't even scouted, which is quite unfortunate, though not surprising. Though we might suspect it already. It wouldn't really change. Oh, he's supply blocked, trying to build. He's building 4 pylons. He didn't construct additional pylons. Stressed out about the Zerglings. Serral just pulling him apart at the edges. He's so good at seeming like he's going to commit to an attack without actually doing so. And having that sort of pull-out game is very important for maintaining financial stability throughout however long into the future. So, commendable. So, it is a Hydra timing. This is maybe not best case scenario, but it's good. Since Serral is not going straight up to Hive. Does he have the infestation pit? No, it's not even started. We're going to get something of a demonstration of the intent here. And he hasn't yet revealed the Colossi. The Nexus will be forced to be canceled. He's building them up. Oh, this is so suspicious. Serral knows something's happening. But it could just as easily be a rush to Fleet Beacon. And, well, Serral's getting a bunch of Dropper Lords. He's looking to do a multi-pronged attack, but I don't know if there are enough prongs involved here to deal with this many Colossi. 3 is a lot, but not unmanageable. 4 is right out. 4 is too many. And he spots them. Zoun does not see the counterattack, but I think Serral's realizing now his entire army is Hydras and Lings. He has 82 Zerglings. They're going to be incinerated almost instantly. He's gonna try a 3-prong surround. All right. Is the trident enough? 4 prongs! A full fork! And here comes Serral! From every single side! Just 3 Colossi. The 4th one was caught out. Guardian Shield, juggling back with the Prism. He's gonna try to warp in mid-fight. The Colossi are incinerating so many Hydras. This is literally the best surround Serral could dream of. But oh, he takes out the Prism! Oh no! And, well, Zoun walked into a quite literal 360-degree surround. And it was almost enough. Still. But he was not able to burn his way through. 3 Colossi dead. I don't know that he canceled the 4th one as the attack was coming out. I swear there was a 4th one, but only 3 in the unit's lost tab and none on the field. So, but, Zoun. It's the book smart Protoss here. His build is great, and I think he'd find a lot of success on the ladder and against, well, non-Serrals. But Serral somehow manifests the best possible fight with the worst possible units. And now, here we go again. The drop begins in the main base. The Colossi will slow this down, but the Dropper Lords will help out dramatically. The Hydra's at the 3rd. The maze, okay, well, he's going to pick up and he's going to get out, but the 3rd base is completely overrun. The Zerglings just ripping through the mineral line. The probes will be slaughtered in turn, though he didn't focus on the Nexus. He cleans up the main. More Zerglings. He's trying to box out. But what might have been a brawl will eventually be cleaned up. But this was just Serral. Again! He's done it again. He lost 2 Hydras throughout all of that. He finished Hive. And he's got Adrenal Glands and the Lurkers. He got the Vipers. So, that all... smoke and mirrors. If it was successful, amazing. The follow-up might even be better. But by the time Zoun comes across the map, a fully operational set of Vipers will arrive. Of course, he might just lose them, but the Blinding Cloud saves the Viper, even though it's going to cost him the energy. Looking for the Harpoons. All right, man, the Harpoons! The Colossi! Well, Blinding Cloud. Lurkers, though, will save the day. The Vipers, not the be-all, end-all. But Serral has just ended his main base. And I don't see these Colossi. He doesn't have detection. The Colossi don't see the Lurkers either. Lurker range isn't done, but the Zoun doesn't have a home to go back to. This is also lore accurate for the Protoss. I don't... The Hydras countering... Well, they don't counter Colossi at all. But quantity has a... Well, they really don't counter Colossi at all. This is why it was so ridiculous that Serral won anything close to a fight against them before. But he's completely cleared the main, and there's only so many bases left. Serral. The counterattack is devastating, and Zoun again. His army just jumped off a cliff 2 times in a row, and Serral, despite being caught completely off guard, will manage to adapt and overcome before Zoun is able to get critical damage done. Which brings us to our anti-spoiler bonus game. One I've been waiting to show. I couldn't find the time, but hopefully you have it. So, something a little bit special. A little bit of build-up, a little bit... Jimmy, hurry up and put it up there so people don't get bored. It's the TikTok Okay, well, their kids are the TikTok generation. No, I'm not going to ask about the back pain. That's rude. How's the back pain, by the way? I know. Serral, with a comprehensive beatdown, gets caught off guard by the Blink Stalkers and has to take quite a time to dismantle him. But we have introducing our teams from, I believe, the Wardy Team League tournament. It might be Youth Thermals 2v2, but I'm pretty sure it's the Wardy Team League. But in the top left in the blue, our Korean team, we have Ragnarok, a.k.a. Shin, the artist formerly known as Ragnarok and now currently known as Ragnarok again, alongside Bunny, the Terran in blue. from Korea as well. And the teammates from Team Basilisk. Oh, that's definitely Lordies. This is the actual team league with the actual teams. We have, of course, the finisher. It's Serral. Alongside his teammate Trigger. The best player from North America. The Canadian Protoss. Which, 2v2, a whole different game mode. But also very much the same. Unfortunately or fortunately, and I have strong opinions towards the first one, but 2v2 has never been... Actually, I think we can use player colors. Well, I'll use team. We'll see. We'll mix and match. It looks fine. But 2v2 is 1v1 with 2 players jammed alongside. All team games. There's no sort of Age of Empire style. You can trade resources after a certain amount of time. You can technically share control of units, but some notable differences are you can't build on your teammates' creep. Because there's no such thing as teammates' creep. There's only creep. There's no distinguishing. The reason you can do it in co-op is that the AI is not coded to build on your creep. But they never set it up so there was player-specific creep. This is getting very creepy, and I should probably stop. But, so, on some maps, just having a Zerg on your team can be a detriment. But if that Zerg is named Serral, I don't think you can complain. And I doubt Trigger is. We're on Gem Garden, which is one of our largest 2v2 maps. And it's not surprising to see. It's always interesting when we get into these 2v2 tournaments. Which teams have clearly prepared a 2v2 timing, and which are just playing 1v1, but occasionally complaining that their team isn't helping them. And sometimes both, but because some of the basic requirements, the basic restrictions, things that you could defend in 1v1, you simply can't. Like, you add a Reaper into a Zergling rush. Like, if it's Zerglings versus Zerglings and they have 4 Hellions with their Zerglings, it gets significantly harder. Serral might manage it. In fact, I have a video of Serral playing 1v2, though not against Korean pros, but sometimes it feels like he does. Alright. I do want to bring a little more attention to 2v2. The algorithm seems to be less than favorable. Alright, it's like you brought apples to school every day for the past 10 years, and you want us to look at oranges? Or maybe not even apples. Instead of red apples, it's green apples. People have strong opinions about those apples, alright? How about them apples? We ask. Kind of a biblical question at the end of the day, but Triggers, Adept, comes in, and that's first blood on Bunny's SCV. Ragnarok Zerglings will try to intercept. Serral has a few lings sneaking around. He's got Zergling speed finishing up, but already a 3rd hatchery. As, despite any early trading back and forth, it looks like all the teams and all the players are focused on a much more macro-oriented start. Can I take the... There are 2 watchtowers throughout the map. The Oracle, a queen called in to deal with it. The SCVs... My adopted babies! I don't know. Let some creep into your life. No, that's a bit much. I don't know. Thank you. Another Adept tries to come in. Gets incinerated. Overlord will somehow manage to scout the whole main. See that Trigger is opting for a Twilight Council after the initial Stargate. Viking a little bit slow to chase down the Oracle. And... oh, we're on the Ragnarok cam. The Zergling sneaking across. Mech! Bunny taking us to McDonald's. So the major weakness of Mech is usually the build-up time. But if you have a Zerg player to throw a bunch of Zerglings in front and cover for you, and he's going Mutas as well, so it's going to be Mech and Mutas. Sounds like an interesting buddy cop comedy that runs about 2 seasons and exhausts its jokes pretty quickly, because they're just barely veiled spacism. But I digress. As quickly as possible. Double armory. Okay. Well, they're taking some real liberties here with how much they can get away with. But on the other side, it's not like Trigger and Serral are jumping or champing or chomping at the bit to get damage done. Serral's at 66 drones. Trigger at 56 probes and counting. So neither team focused on anything but getting to 200 supply probably as quickly as possible. The mutas will be popping out. It's going to be Battle Mech, unsurprisingly. Mag Field Accelerator, as well as Blue Flame for Cyclone lock-on damage and Hellion bonus against light units. So much going on. Cancels a hatch. Gets away before the Hellions can make him pay for it. The mutas will be spotted by Serral. He smelled the mutas. And Phoenix is in production for Trigger. He's already got Stalkers, though Blink isn't quite done yet. Seconds away. We'll cancel some of the stuff in the more vulnerable edge of the base. Mutas will find an opportunity, and Serral doesn't really have anything to help deal with it. It's entirely on Trigger to defend his base. I guess thankfully he's on the outside of it. Blink is done. Snipes off a couple more well, gets one. Just one, which is confusingly low, but the Blink Stalker's not able to focus quite enough. 8 more mutas on the way. And Bunny, well, he's taking his sweet time building up. He's got 3 CC, and now all 5 factories online, pumping out siege tanks. Serral has a hive most of the way down. He's going to have a hive before 8 minutes. That is redonkulously quick. And his creep is getting uncomfortably close to Trigger's base. It's always kind of a question of how far you spread it, which in and out of context is always uncomfortable. Mutas chase down. A single Phoenix, not quite enough to deal with the mutas, but the threat of more and the Blink Stalkers behind is a scan. Revelation will tag the Cyclones and Hellions. Doesn't want to get too hot and heavy without agreeing to the idea. An attack ping from, I think, the Team Basilisk. Meanwhile, the Roaches and Lings to the south, but Serral is mostly covering for his lurkers here. He wants to, well, the muta count has gotten uncomfortably high. 19 mutas against just 2 Phoenixes as Trigger underestimated the level of commitment. And Serral has Vipers, though, because of course he does. Vipers are an existential threat to mutas. Parasitic Bomb kills mutas better than any other air unit, because mutas have a tendency to be in very close range and stacked up. And they have 120 HP. Parasitic Bomb does 125 damage over its duration. It's just the mutas barely heal enough to survive it with their extra regen. The thing is, that leaves them scarred and deformed after the attempt on their life. And a strong gust of wind could knock the rest of the flock out of the sky, so this much invested in mutas is a potential massive liability. 25 mutas, though, I seriously doubt he's going to give him an opportunity. Of course, you can dodge or pick the mutalist that's tagged with Parabomb out of the composition, but that's actually really hard to do quickly because, again, they're usually so stacked up and there's no magical way to pick it out. Serral forces the cancel on yet another base. Parabomb! Oh, it's so much damage, but there's 2 of them. Ragnarok does a pretty good job of isolating, quarantining the mutas before the spread can get too devastating, but still, the mutas softened up heavily. That is a lot of siege tanks. Wow, 14 siege tanks. So it looks like he moved off the more mobile battle mech into a heftier, heavy metal composition. There are 2 sets of rocks keeping armies from easily getting through here, but by no means impossible. The mutas might be able to magic box over the Archons, but the threat of the Vipers and the sheer amount of Stalkers might be enough already. He's trying to fight around the edges. Bunny is moving some of his army. Well, Bunny's just caught in the middle. Meanwhile, the Zerglings run by. Defending at the back. The Mutas. Oh, the Vipers! Do they have enough energy? Just barely for... Wait, no, they don't have enough for Parabomb. He recognizes. He snipes it. 1 Parabomb. And, oh, it's maximum damage. He's able to split off the Muta in time. Meanwhile, Zerglings in the 3rd and 4th, and they're actually going to take out maybe the 5th base of Serral. Though they're getting distracted by the burrow move roaches. Serral with lurkers on the other side. A scan will drive them away. Zealot swinging down, but right into the siege tanks, which will do obscene amounts of damage to that Zealot count. Trigger knocked down to 170 supply from nearly maxed out. The Corruptors. Ragnarok with Corruptors to try to knock out the Vipers, I assume. But a Nidus that the rocks... Serral will not wait. He just goes over the top with multiple transport methods. Double Nidus. Engaging the Planetary Fortress. The Corruptors trying to figure out something useful to do and not succeeding so far. The Roach Hydra just knocks out the Planetary. A couple Liberators with a Venn diagram of freedom will make life more difficult. The Zerglings with the counterattack. But Ragnarok and Buddy struggling to deal with Serral on any front. The Vipers boxing out the Mutas. The Nidus network itself! I mean, they still has them in the network, but if it's disconnected, the network connectivity issues are potentially disastrous. The Zerglings just keeping everything busy. Some Templar tapping them with water balloons on the way out. But Bunny is driven off of his 3rd base and we knocked back down to like 2.5. Trigger, but here come the Templar. I mean, here come the Mutas to snipe them. The Storm's kind of desperate. The siege tanks in position will save the hatchery. But Serral knocks out the entire northern front, and the economy has been mostly untouched. Serral and Trigger, Team Basilisk, have maintained most of their bases. There's still lurkers out at the front, as Serral has just maneuvered through the entirety of both of their bases. The lurkers supporting the attack. The Mutas overhead, though. Ragnarok thinning out the Protoss, but the siege tanks will force them to back off finally. But the Vipers and Blinding Cloud could be absolutely devastating. Bunny hasn't really dealt with the Vipers. Unfortunately, Ragnarok has. And despite the terrible, terrible damage being dealt by Parasitic Bomb, the Vipers will be knocked out of the sky finally. Though, Serral, continuing the Roach Hydra, the Nidus Worms are still a potential threat. Though the siege tank's dealing with the tunneling claws. Serral undercuts from the north side. Another Nidus. More Mutas taking out the Nidus. Corruptors finding maybe an angle. He recalls back some of his units. Just a few. The Corruptors will be taken out. The Hydra's just sliding around looking for an opportunity. Trigger starts a mothership. Serral is maxed out, making him unique in this game so far. Bunny, pretty close, blasting through some of the lurkers. But how does Serral have a bank in 2v2? Like, well, he has so many bases. But it's not supposed to happen. Of course he does, though. Casual siege tank taken out. Serral, more parasitic bombs. He's able to quarantine quickly. The Roach Hydra in the main. But a few siege tanks and 1 upgrades. 2-2 is done for the mech. As Bunny has not been mining much, but has been enough. And he's minimized his losses pretty efficiently. Ragnarok has been taking the brunt of it. Eventually, the Mutas will deal with all of it. The charge slots on top of the Planetary, but the SCVs are holding. And, well, down the center. The combined forces of Team Basilisk are no match for the siege tanks. The charge lots may barely be enough. The Planetary, the SCV, and what a save! But another Nidus. The siege tanks are holding the center, but they're halfway to nowhere right now. There's so much space to maneuver around them. Unfortunately, Trigger not taking full advantage of it. The siege tank's moving forward yet again. A few Hydras and Lurkers to the south. The Mutas will isolate and kill some of the Hydras. But Ragnarok can lose yet another base as Serral avoiding the majority of the units. But Bunny has decided he's moving forward. He's nearly maxed out. 40 SCVs. That is a massive amount of army supply. But where are the Vipers? When the Zealots fell, where were the Vipers? When the Mutas encroached, where were the Vipers? Well, when the tanks were knocking on the door for the last time, where were the Vipers? Trigger calls for aid. And Serral will answer. Serral working his way through multiple bases, undercutting the economy. Ragnarok has barely any money left. The siege tanks are slowly and not so surely making their way through the center. But Serral has Hydras to the south. Serral has Roaches to the north. And Serral has Vipers down the center. And if there was ever a time for Blinding Cloud, oh my. Please. Sweet Mother of Mercy. He's boxing out the Mutas. The Mutas dealing with the Archons. This is it. There has never been a better time, but Serral continues. The Mutas! Just being taken out of the sky. You can't consume your teammates' bases. Trigger has to back off. They have to break this army one time. They know the Vipers are out there. There's Vikings to potentially match them. A single Tempest from Trigger. It's all on Bunny. Because if he doesn't break them here, they can't stop them at all. The Vipers will consume the Hive. Backed into his main base. Serral has removed his fellow Zerg from the game in so many senses. Trigger is waiting. And by waiting, I mean he's just sending it across the map. But it's just Hydras. Trigger, where are you? Serral needs you! Or does he? The Blinding Clouds are immaculate. But there's just not enough support. Trigger sent his army across the map. We're in a full-on base trade. Instead of dealing with the problem at the front, it appears they're just going to try to go for the elimination. And again, in StarCraft 2, you win the game by eliminating all your opponent's buildings. Well, both opponents in this case. Bunny can potentially lift to the corner of the map. But he's running out of real estate. Eventually, well, the Mutas are still doing something. Though, the main base is almost entirely gone. I think they're sharing control, and Trigger is microing the Hydras along with the army. Which makes sense at this stage. There's still one Viper, a bunch of Lurkers. Those siege tanks are so devastating, but if there's one thing they aren't, it's fast. The siege tank's moving up, probably not expecting there's still a Viper, 2 Blinding Clouds, or even just 1 might be enough. He doesn't even have the money to repair. He has less SCVs. Serral rebuilding 3 hatcheries, whereas Ragnarok rebuilding none. He has not rebuilt his base and is being revealed. And wait, are they gonna... GG! They've just left the gate. Wait. Oh. They GG'd so fast and there were so many things scrolling past. But Serral and Trigger just rug pull the entire base. As Serral pulling, I gotta say, it feels like a little more than his weight. Serral undercutting both players. He took out the economy of Bunny to the north, and then, when Bunny finally moved out after another 5 minutes of building up, he eviscerated Ragnarok, all the while boxing out the Mutas with the Vipers and threatening the siege tanks so they couldn't just waltz across the map. Trigger, fulfilling an important role of filling in the gaps. But somehow Serral making Zerg look OP in 2v2, which, if anyone could do it, asterisk, Serral notwithstanding. But, thank you. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it made a not insignificant portion of your day, at least a little bit better. And if you get the means of motivation, be also to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But, your liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. And if you haven't yet checked out Winter Gaming TV for more streams and other strategy games and even more content, well, that'd be cool. But otherwise, thank you to our meal tier patrons. Big Jig, Devin Door, Kate, Crazy Mouse, Mario Suit. I just still enjoying everyone. Check out this video Jimmy picked out just for you. And I hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.